Okay, so today I wanted to make this video because, like everyone, we all have our ups and downs in life, but it's just in a way to kind of redirect this channel a bit. Honestly, it's not a redirection. This is kind of something I've already planned, but I just wanted to really get into it tonight, and that is I wanted to talk about uh, transitioning when you've basically kind of like hit a bottom. But the thing is, a lot of the times the content on the internet, anything dealing with things like like reing up, uh, you know, um, getting to the next level, going after shit. Like a lot of that stuff is very male dominated, and look, men can do whatever the fuck they want to do. But the thing is, as a woman, as a woman who just wants to have her own, and not only have her own, but has like high ambitions and things like that. Um, I just can't. While I can relate to a lot of their content, I just can't relate to a lot of their side content. Like a lot of the shit that they like, male dominated spaces are very misogynistic. They're very toxic as fuck. They're just weird. They're very frat boyish. Like they're childish as fuck. Um, and I just can't get into that shit. So I'm trying to make a space for that I can get into, you know. And that's just something about, being a woman who comes from humble beginnings and trying to change that. Now if you are someone who is just starting out, that's one thing. But being someone who isn't necessarily just starting out, but you started and then you fell off at some point due to life circumstances. Because whenever you're trying to like climb your way out of anytime anyone tries to escape or get beyond a toxic situation, there's always these things that kind of like pull you back down. And if you're someone who, upon trying to escape your toxic situation, got pulled back down for whatever those reasons are, I just wanted to yeah, let you know that you're not alone in that. Of course you're not. And yeah, here's how I'm going to you know, my plans for reading up, my plans for getting back on a horse, my plans for making sure that I'm never in this situation again. uh, First and foremost, this space is really for those of us who are in situations that are very limited, if you know what I mean. When you come from a humble beginnings, like is you ain't honestly, you don't always have family to call on, you don't always have friends to call on, you don't always have, that's what makes spaces like this so important. But ultimately, I'm really lucky. I got lucky at one point where I had a decent job, and with my first check, and it's funny, everyone else, when this happened or when I was doing this, they were all just like, oh, that's a waste of money or this and that and blah blah blah. With my first checks, when I was getting them, I did things like buy gold and diamonds, just things that are for storing value. You hear a lot of people talking about crypto and virtual currencies and all this other bullshit, and I ain't got shit against. Well, actually, I do, because I do. You will see these crypto heads, these crypto evangelists and YouTube, Reddit, all these other different spaces, just literally following the same script, trying to get as many people to buy into or view crypto as this thing that's gonna take power away from the feds and away from the blah 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 and the government and give the power to the people. No, the fuck it's not. Crypto is just another way for a matter of fact, call me a conspiracy theorist if you want to, but I believe that crypto was definitely created by the government, and they're trying to make it seem like it's this underground thing that's all, restricted and just for the people, so that you can it can seem like you're making the choice to choose to use a currency that is going to be heavily, and I mean, the idea of being able to make a private purchase with crypto is just not a thing. And uh, yeah, so it's just a way for them to keep track of us and our spending habits a lot more efficiently and closely. Kind of like the way a credit card does. If you use a card, not even just debit or credit cards in general, online banking and stuff like that. That's just ways for you to be tracked. But when you have liquid or when you have cash and things like that, that's not easily trackable. That's not you can't track cash. You buy something in cash and you bought it in cash and that's that. Um, but yeah, crypto is just a way to kind of like replace credit cards, but do so more efficiently by making it so that it's just easier to look up the transaction history of someone you don't even that doesn't even work for you, or someone that doesn't even yeah, that's just that whole thing with crypto. And look, I'm not against investing in crypto. Like the way I see it, especially if you're someone who needs to re-up, if you're someone who started from humble beginnings, look, the world is going to turn and you just have to turn with it. There's really not a lot that you can do in terms of I mean, you can sit on your soapbox if you want to, or you can just navigate the systems that are the changes that are going to happen whether you want them to or not. And me, first of all, I'm cool with change. I don't really have an issue with change. It's whatever to me. um but yeah, me, I'm just the type of person that's all about riding waves, navigating, and it's just not an issue to me. Having to learn to navigate new systems instead of keeping the old ones. I'm not in a position to create systems. I'm not in a position to change systems. I'm not in a position to do anything like that. So the way I see it is, it's best to just learn as much as I can about it, pay someone who knows about it, or anything I can do to just educate myself on the matter. That's about it. And I think that's all that you should do. But part of this series and things like that, and the reason I brought that up is because a lot of times, people that don't have real assets, you'll constantly hear people nagging you to just get into crypto and all this other bullshit. And I'm just like, oh, in the metaverse, invest in this and invest in that. I'm like, I'm not about to fucking invest in virtual assets. Like, what the fuck? Get the fuck out of my face with that shit. No, I'm going to invest in real assets first. Once I have real assets, once I have, tangible goods that are, beneath me, then I can, it's just a lot of times people want to skip certain steps. They want to play with the big boys before they even, why they don't even have the same things that the big boys have. Like, I don't have money, just extra money that I could, be put into work for me. Like, majority of people don't just have extra, money lying around that they can put to work. A lot of times, the money you do have needs to go to something, or you're in debt. And if you're in debt, or if you're, don't have real assets, you shouldn't be worrying about virtual assets in any way, shape, or form. That's just my own educated opinion. You shouldn't worry about virtual assets until you have real assets. And this kind of brings me to a bit about this video. Something that I did when I got my first check was I started buying real assets. I remember when I was buying gold and diamonds and things like that, people were like, oh, Jill, what are you doing? Jill, get crypto or something. It's not going to go up in value. Guess what? The markets crashed, and what happened? Gold went up. And you want to know what I did with my gold that I bought? I was able to, sell some of it, and it went up, higher than what I bought it at, first of all. And honestly, I think I undersold myself when I was selling my gold and things like that. But the point is, if you are trying to re-up, that means that at some point in time, you are at an up position. Take a look at your inventory. Take a look at the things that you have. Take a look at not even just the inventory, but skills that you have, and try to leverage those in different ways in order to help you at least just make do a bit, here and there, and be smart and be wise. The reason why I did that whole buying gold jewelry and things like that is because years ago, and I mean many, many years ago, I think I was like a kid when I first heard this. But I was speaking to, this is like that old Southern wisdom too. There's this woman, she was telling me about how she was telling me about how women used to buying things like getting gifts of things that are like, you know, real gold, diamond jewelry, diamonds and stuff like that. That was a way for that was kind of like a woman's insurance. Women couldn't have bank accounts or something like that back then. And so the way that they, you know, had money, or the way that they, you know, stored, you know, safety nets was through jewelry, was through gold, was through, you know, things like that. Because, you know, when you came upon hard times, you can go ahead and sell that necklace and get some money. Like you can go ahead and, you know, when a man gifted you something like that, that was kind of like him saying, you know, like I want you to be not just, you know, wear something nice, but this is like, you know, some type of security for you. Like I got you. Like, you know, some shit ever happened to me, you know, you good. Like, you know, it's just I forgot where I heard that or who I was talking to, but it was just this woman talking to me about how women, you know, their jewelry was a store of value for them. And so when I became a woman, and as soon as I got some money, I was like, it's time to store this value. You know, it's trying to let me store my first check, you know, in something that's valuable. And while it's nice and pretty to look at, of course, you know, I love wearing it and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, you know, the reason why I buy real jewelry isn't because of, oh, it's so pretty. It's because, oh, it's worth something. It's valuable. And yeah, that's just my thing. I was into gold bullions. I was into real gold diamond jewelries and necklaces and diamonds and stuff like that. And so yeah, if you find yourself on hard times, you know, look at your inventory, look at whatever you acquired while you were in a previous position, and just think to yourself, okay, what can I do to, you know, help myself, you know, get along. And right now the price of gold has like so fucking skyrocketed, man. Which really, really sucked. But at the end of the day, you know, it's like if you are someone who listened to the wisdom of sages, you know, your gold, you know, the value of your stuff just went up. So go ahead and part ways with that stuff. And that's another thing, you know, when part of this whole re-upper thing that I'm trying to do is, you know, you got to be willing to let some shit go. Did I want to sell my gold bullion? No. But guess what? I can get that shit back. You know, that's the kind of energy you got to have with these type of things. You know, it's like, I'll get that shit back. It's okay. I'll let the shit I care about go and I'll get it right back. That's kind of how I'm going into this whole thing. Another thing, something even more valuable than gold, I would say, are skills. Now, there's 1,000,001 programs out here, 1,000,001 programs, assistance programs, stuff like that. Now, if you look at older videos, you'll see I've talked about things like narcissistic abuse or gang stalking and stuff like that. And that's because, look, if you are a victim of that, odds are that when it comes to things like getting assistance and stuff like that, you have somebody that's especially if you're a victim of gang stalking and stuff like that, you have someone that's limiting your access to assistance, someone that's like specifically targeting you and making your life harder just because. And if you're like that, then you know you really are up shit's creek. Their whole objective is to put you in a position of, you know, financial ruin so that you are more vulnerable to their attacks and things like that. But you just got to keep going. You just got to make sure that you acquire some skills, because yeah, you just can't let that stop you. At a certain point, like depending on where you are at in your journey through the abuse, you know, at some point you are just at some point you have to just kind of like, you know, at some point you're just going to be forced to live with whatever is going on or whatever is happening to you. Live with it or die, like sink or swim. And when you're in those situations, sometimes sinking seems like the answer, and a lot of times, look, I don't judge anyone who chooses to sink. Like, this shit is tough. These waters are rough. Sink if you have to, but only if you have to. Only if you have no more will. Only if there's just nothing else in you. Other than that, you need to swim, and a great way to swim is getting some skills under your belt. I'm reading right now. Getting the way that I'm trying to get out of my situation is gaining more either administrative or tech skills and transition to a tech role and stuff like that. I'm looking at different internships. I'm looking at different apprenticeships. I'm looking at different jobs, and things like that. And I am applying to them. Now, while I'm applying to those apprenticeships and jobs like that, I'm also doing things like serving, and I'm just working in kind of like odd jobs and things like that for the moment, but only for the moment. And while I'm doing that, and while I have the time, I'm trying to get the skills that I need in order to hold down a different job, some type of office job or something like that will give me a wage that I can build up from. Because right now, currently, whatever it is I'm doing right now, it's not going to provide me the financial security I need in order to build anything. It's not going to provide me. I can't currently live off of whatever it is that I'm making. Like, it's just not going to work. But yeah, like I said, it's just you gotta find a way to get whatever it is you need anyway. Like, just keep looking, just keep searching, just keep asking around, because there's always something. So yeah, that's another important part. You have to keep looking for those options. Keep looking for those. Just keep looking for those soft points in the system. People that are willing to take chances on you and things like that. Because there's always something out there. But while you're waiting, make sure you're doing some type of skilling up. Make sure you're doing some type of something to help you grow, because that'll just make every other opportunity that comes your way something beneficial or something more helpful to you. It'll just increase your chances of the likelihood of something favorable happening to you. Gosh, another part of this whole re-up series. Glowing up or re-ing up, it's not just what you need to do financially. It's not just what you need to do occupationally, but it's also something you need to do like socially and things like that. Like, it's really important to make sure that the people that are around you, like, they are not just get rid of the or create really strong boundaries around the people that are just doing nothing or going nowhere in your life. The people that are always that just don't the people that just don't and also the people that don't, like, they try to slow you down and things like that. I don't know about you all, but as an ambitious woman, or just as a woman who's constantly trying to always work on improvement and things like that, a lot of times when it comes to my male partners, like, some of them are just, I don't know, it's like they're always trying to slow you down. They're always trying to, like, to like hijack your wave. They're always trying to like, it's like almost as if they have some type of like either feel inadequate or there's some type of jealousy there. I don't know what it is, but if you got a partner that's just not on your wavelength, don't let that stop you. Don't let that bother you. Don't let you know. Mm-mm. Don't let people slow you down. Um, who you attach yourself to in terms of partnership and things like that, especially when you're a woman, um, like that is just so important. A lot of times, we as women, actually, you know what? I feel like the women that are like my body, my choice, they're actually the ones that are more, well, by nature, of using that slogan, you're going to be a woman who is pro-choice at least for others, if not for yourself as well. And this is mainly, I guess, something that happens with women that are like, basically in my life. Whenever I see women that are kind of like anti-abortion, they're kind of the women that kind of get caught up in these, caught up in the baby traps and things like that from these dudes out here. And that's something that you don't want to do when you're trying to re-up or things like that. Like if you're in a relationship, make sure that, you know, your partner, especially if your partner is like trying to sabotage you in ways, make sure that, he doesn't sabotage you in that way. Um by baby trapping you when you know damn well you don't want a baby, and he knows damn well he's not ready for a baby, but he does know he doesn't want to lose you, so blah blah blah, and put you in a situation that you don't want to be in, and then you end up in a situation where you're a baby mama to some guy that was just never ready to be a father in the first place. um, you know, my body, my choice goes both ways. It's about something that a lot of times, not all, but it's kind of like whenever you're at the bottom of society, it's like all of the worst aspects of society are just like magnified down there. And so when it comes to things like irresponsible behavior lack of um lack of just self-guidance and things like that, like it's just magnified. Things like racism, sexism, all these isms and stuff like that, like all of it is just so magnified at the bottom. um and I'd imagine at the very top too, like at polar ends of the spectrum, all of the worst aspects of society are magnified. Somewhere in the middle, that's where it's better. But um but if you do find yourself on the lower polar end, um yeah, you're just going to be around a whole bunch of people that are just, they're economically stressed, um they're economically stressed, their family situations aren't that great, there's XYZ that's always going on. Like you're just around people that are just always at a moment's notice, ready to kind of just like pop off. Like they're really they're just agitated. They're agitated. And for good reasons. Like there's a lot of like inequality is a feature of what we have. It's not a bug. It's not like an accident. It's not like, you know, as much as people like to sit there and try to, pass off, poverty like it's a choice or something like that. Like no, it's not. It's just some of us are just born into situations where we just have less access to support. We have less access to opportunity. We have less access to a bunch of different things. And even when we do have access to things like opportunity, we don't have the support. Part of taking advantage of opportunity comes with having a nice support system that's going to, you know, help you get those opportunities. And then when it comes to things like, um, let's say you have a little bit of support here, and then you have an opportunity here, but you also have XYZ going on in the background. And then it's like another thing that happens when you do join these programs that are trying to like support you and things like that, is a lot of times the savior complex happens, where they feel like well, we gave you an opportunity, and then you squandered it, and guess what? We're not giving you another, or um that was your fault, or they just what's the word I'm looking for? They can just be very what's the word I'm looking for? It's like, if I can't be your savior, then I'll be your destroyer. Like a lot of times these people, even if they want to, help people that are coming from disadvantaged backgrounds and things like that, they get this real complex about them where it's just like, you're dealing with other shit in the background in your life, and they just don't give a fuck. And it's just like, well, fuck you too then, like there's just so many different levels of support. There's so many different levels of that just goes into making sure that somebody is all right, and that somebody is properly able to you know do all right for themselves when opportunities present themselves and things like that. And it's just a lot of that honestly goes back to many of us having poor family structures and things of that nature. But at the end of the day, why is it that our parents, weren't able to perform their parental duties well? And that's because, well, first of all, poverty is something that gets passed down just as wealth can. And ultimately, it's just a lot of it has to do with the fact that, you know, in a society where, um, and I can only speak on America because I'm from America, but ultimately, current society as it is, it doesn't necessarily, it's just not conducive to healthy family dynamics. It's very, our current culture, our current society is just very geared towards trying to isolate, not even just people, but trying to isolate like family. Well, what I mean is not even just families, but people as individuals, down to their most, reduced, you know, point, so that you can be just extremely agitated and then angry and all this other stuff. And then they, try to radicalize you and, try to, or groom you, or there's just so many predators. Our system, yeah, there we go. Our system is very predatory. Um, and if you're starting from the bottom, you're just open for the pickings. Like you're just ripe for the pickings. And part of reading up is making sure that is that you can stave off these fucking predators who are trying to knock you down until you can't get back up. Um, so yeah, things like skilling up, taking a look at the things that you have, and selling them, getting rid of them, especially your valuables. At the end of the day, you're gonna get them back. Just let it go. Um, and make sure that the people in your camp aren't aren't playing for the other side. Um, there's this one quote that I really like. It's like, I don't care if it's lonely at the top because it was lonely at the bottom too. And it's just like, yeah, when you are struggling, there's really no one there for you. And sometimes when you're really successful, there's going to be, or the point of that statement is, if you have to cut off or not speak to or limit access to certain people to you while you're on your journey up, don't let the fear of who's going to be there for me when I have all this money but I don't have anyone, like, don't let the whole idea of not having anyone with you at the top stop you from, you know going after your goals, because at the end of the day, like, is it honestly any that different when you're at the bottom? Like, people don't give a fuck. So either way, you can either be crying on the streets, or you can be crying in the fucking Tesla you bought, like, just it's not going to be the same. It's not the same. It really isn't. And sadness is sadness. If you're sad, you're sad. But at the end of the day, having one less thing to worry about, one less security, or just, one more, thing of security, like that, really, it just helps. And so, yeah, just make sure you have that. And yeah, don't entertain bullshit out of fear of being alone. Like, don't do that to yourself. Don't do it, because all it's going to do is just distract you, weigh you down, or make you just feel less, feel less motivated to do what you got to do, And when you're trying to re-up, that's the last thing you want. So yeah, I'm just going to be documenting, along with also talking about, my usual topics, how to re-up and, succeed despite despite the world being against you, or feeling like the world is against you. But yeah, that's all for now. Make sure that you get some skills, join a program, an apprenticeship, do whatever the heck it is you got to do to get a job that can get you above that that can just get you above that baseline of just surviving. And then once you do that, make sure that you get some real assets first. And then after you've got some real assets, because those real assets are going to help your ass out when if you do something like lose your job, or if, you have some, shit that goes down, those real assets are going to save your fucking life. And then, save up, get a nice little cushion under your belt. If you are entrepreneurial, which I am, and I'll go into that in more detail because I'm going to start my business this year. If you are entrepreneurial, yeah, definitely start a business. There's 1,000,001 channels on here that are just great gems of advice that they offer. And I'd be more than happy to, and I'll definitely go into their videos and share about them and stuff like that. But they're great. Something that I did a while ago, months ago, around like the start of this year, I think before this year started even, I think it was like in December of last year. I just unfollowed, blocked, and just removed so many channels that were just about gossip and bullshit. I was just like, I don't care. First of all, I don't really care. I only got into these channels during the pandemic. Like, normally I really just don't give a fuck about certain things, but yeah, I just got into that stuff during the pandemic. I got into a lot of or more into, a lot of things like just being a homebody and mindless scrolling and stuff like that during the pandemic. Just a bad habit I picked up. And it was also because I was going through, a whole bunch of narcissistic abuse and gang stalking and things like that just kind of really threw me off. Because it's one thing to be grinding when you don't feel a whole bunch of negative pressure coming against you. Grinding in that situation is very conducive to, growth. It's just like when you're just grinding, but you just feel like when there's no negative or positive pressure being on you, that's a pretty good situation to be in. But when you're grinding and there's a lot of negative pressure on you, that's extremely stressful, and it's very it's just not conducive to growth. You will, and that was a situation I was in. I was going through extreme levels of abuse, while also trying to go to school and, complete a program and all that sort of stuff and work. And I was just doing all this stuff while trying to navigate this new world I had entered in, where I was just constantly, just being abused and stalked and harassed. Um, but then I realized, it's like, yeah, no, they don't get to. I'm not gonna go play tit for tat with these people. I'm not about to go back and forth. I'm not doing that shit. No, I'm just gonna work hard. And once I came to that realization, they you know, they still doing whatever it is that they want to do in the background. I really don't give a fuck. I'm just yeah, I'm just moving on and living my life. Um and yeah, despite all of that, I've also just been feeling better. Um and yeah, just when you take off that negative energy, that negative pressure that's going against you, that that's very helpful to growth. I had this one quote. A lot of times people say things like, sleep is the cousin of death. But, I always say that comfort is the cousin of death. Comfort just kind of slows you down. It really makes you, it can make you lazy. It can make you not as motivated to do this. When you're comfortable, you don't really feel the need to move, like if you're in a comfortable position, you don't want to move from that position. You just want to stay where you are. Um, but the thing is, you can't have too much discomfort either. Comfort and comfort is limiting, and also trauma and other shit is limiting too. Like, if you're someone who doesn't have your basic needs met, things like food, things like a roof over your head, things like yeah, just those base needs, like you're not even just that, but also, social support. I think that's a pretty base need. I think it's a very base need. If you aren't getting those things met at all, like you're just not in a position to access higher level needs, higher level thinking, just higher level things, um being in survival mode, as they call it, that's just it's just not conducive to higher level thinking, to higher level living, to higher level behaving and things like that. Now, you know, and this is another thing. Oh god, especially when you're someone who is starting from more humble beginnings, honestly, getting out of those humble beginnings, it takes being exceptional. It takes being like, you just have to constantly be exceptional. Something that I learned when I was or something that I noticed when I shifted class levels at one point, um was just how, first of all, I I just real first of all, I came to the realization of how much pressure I was under before, that I had normalized, because I just it was always around me, that constant negative pressure of not having certain things, certain essential things met, you know. I just didn't really registered. And then when I got in a situation where all my essentials were met, and the only expectations that were placed on me, the only pressure that was on me was just to access, my higher level needs, then I kind of excelled in that environment. Not only did I excel in it, but it was just very it was it was good, it was good. But what is it? But things get a little bit different. But I just noticed that around the kids around me, because this happened like when I was in high school. I went from living broke and in poverty in the South to living in a pretty comfortable situation in the West. And but I was still a kid, you know. And and I just noticed a difference in the children around me. They were just very different from what I had grown up and what I experienced. Even adults were different. They were all just, everything was different because, you know, I'm leaving from one part of the country to the other. But one thing I noticed was just that it just made me realize how there are so many people that they're not smarter than you, they're not better than you, they're not really any greater than you are fundamentally. They just have more support than you. They just have more access to opportunity than you. Uh they just have the help of, you know, their parents can network, and their, you know, the children of their parents, you know, friends. Like they just have all these other things just going for them that they take advantage. They view that shit as just regular life, you know, like they view, you know, having a cousin who does this or having a friend who does that as just, you know, regular fucking life. And that's for them that's regular, but you know, that's not you know, like having access to those resources and having access to those people, like that's not what everyone has. And that is honestly what makes or breaks. That's what that's what really divides, you know, someone who's successful from someone who isn't successful, really. And if you don't have those things, um and you're broke, it's like you have to be exceptional just to get the, like an average person with a, you know, born into a family that has connections, they'll be just fine with their average asses. But when you are poor and you don't have, you know, that network access or that just things like that, you have to just be exceptional, and not just exceptional in one area. You have to be exceptional in like a million different areas. You have to have the right temperament and constantly kiss ass or talk to people right. You have to be really smart, or, you know, really strong or athletic. You have, like, there's just all of these. It's like, you know, you just constantly have to be exceptional in every, not in one arena, but just in multiple arenas. Because, you know, a lot of times when you're coming from more humble beginnings, like, or if you're dealing with an abusive situation, you know, that kind of dysregulates you emotionally, that dysregulates you in a few other ways, you know, that are really important to maintaining success and things like that. But yeah, this world doesn't give a fuck. It doesn't care. And it's like, yeah, just once again, you just constantly, you like, you have to be exceptional in every single, you just got to constantly be exceptional. And that's the thing that sucks about starting from humble beginnings, is just this need to be exceptional, not just in one arena but in multiple arenas, because that's exhausting. You know, no one else, life doesn't demand that of certain other people. It really doesn't. Trust me, I grew up around these kids. I saw these adults. They didn't have to be exceptional in every area. Matter of fact, half of them are fucking assholes. Like, they're the biggest assholes you'll ever meet in your life. But it doesn't matter, because they just have the network. They just have the, you know, the money, the capital, so like they just have these other resources that you don't have access to. Um, it's honestly just a case of you know, have versus have not. You know, people that are, a lot of times people do this thing where they, especially if they're a haver, they do this thing where they just kind of like internalize all of the good things that happen to them as you know, a reflection of them. And normally whenever something bad happens to them, it's because they actually deserve it or some shit like that. But the problem with that worldview is that they kind of like project it onto everyone. You know, when you're in an environment that's as healthy as, you know, many of the people that are in positions of power come from, you know, the world kind of works in a very simple way. But when you're someone who doesn't come from um, those comfortable places or those healthy places, the world doesn't work simply. It just doesn't. You have to navigate a lot of random, like you're just constantly, the life doesn't work simply for you. It just doesn't. Trust me. Ask anybody, ask anyone who's making less than you know, fucking 60,000 a year. Ask them. There's always something. Something is just always popping up. There's always some type of, there's just always something, you know. Um, you're constantly being, you're just constantly accumulating stressors that sap at your willpower, sap at your focus, sap at your happiness, sap at, you know, so many different things. Um, and not only is there that, but then on top of it, you know, um, there's just very well, no, it is that, but it's just to the degrees. You know, everyone has situations in life, you know, and that's the problem. Everyone's like, oh my God, everybody has this. Oh my God, everybody has a sob story. Everybody, yeah, sure, but not everybody deals with narcissistic abuse. Not everybody, you know, like there's levels to this shit, is what I'm really trying to get at. And people who go through shit, like they don't like there's levels to this shit. Um, and you know earthquakes happen everywhere, but you know, if you got a magnitude 9 earthquake happening in your life and then someone got a magnitude 2 or 3 earthquake happening in their life, yeah, an earthquake is an earthquake, and that was upsetting and unsettling. It was, but it's not a fucking magnitude 9 earthquake, is it? You know, there's just differences to this shit. There's levels to this shit. And when you're starting at the bottom, it's like you're constantly going through these magnitude 7 or greater earthquakes while everyone else is constantly going through magnitude 2 or 3 earthquakes. And they just their minds literally can't wrap around what you have to navigate through, because it's just never been a part of they don't have to, quite frankly, they don't have to. But you do. And that's where that whole exceptional part comes in. You know, you constantly have to be exceptional. Um, and it's annoying as hell. And it's a very tough ask, which is why I said again, like, I really don't blame people who just want to chill or just want to get to it. Like, I don't have ambitions of being a billionaire. I don't have ambitions of being a millionaire. I just have ambitions of being comfortable. Um, and yeah, maybe my kids can go for some, you know, whether I adopt them or have them, they can go for some type of higher level need or things like that. But, you know, someone like me, like I'm the type of person, like I'm the person that's going to be you know, my kids are going to get to inherit a business from me. They're not going to have to start one, although they should or could, you know. Because honestly, a lot of times, like when I went to that private school and I was around these kids, you know, some of them, like their folks had businesses, but it's like I look at them, their parents are like these hardworking people, but their kids are trash. And I'm just like, damn. And I just remember thinking to myself, like, fuck, I wish I had a dad who had his own business that I could just take up after. I wish I had a mom who, you know, like I just fucking wish I had that shit. Like, oh, and they were so fucking ungrateful. And it's so weird because the person that was my caretaker, one of her favorite words to throw at me was how ungrateful I was. But it's like she had no concept of what actual ungratefulness, you know, like a girl who, and that's a whole other thing, but she didn't really have a real concept of what ungrateful was, because, you know, ungrateful is having a parent that has literally done the hardest part of a business is getting started. It's getting it off the ground. It's getting clients. Ungrateful is letting shit like that just go to. Ungrateful is, you know, is dropping the ball of generational wealth. That's ungrateful. I don't have generational wealth. I ain't got nothing to inherit. I ain't got nothing but problems. Like there's nothing my folks are gonna pass on. All of the best aspects about myself I developed on my own. No one really gave them to me. No one really taught them to me. And it's actually really painful. Not painful, but it might sound really fucked up to say that. Um, well, I won't say all of the best aspects, but most of the most profitable or, life improving aspects about me are things that I developed on my own. They're not really things that got passed along to me or taught to me. A lot of times when you come from humble beginnings, there's a lot of unlearning you have to do. I've literally spent so much of my life unlearning and relearning, and that's what you have to do when you start from humble beginnings. And it's trash as fuck. It sucks as a lot. Like it fucking sucks. But it just is what it is. And yeah, this space is just a place for me to kind of go into that a bit more and how I'm going to do that because yeah, especially when you're minor, like I'm a black woman, a lot of times, oh my God, don't let me get started on all of the the microaggressions or the weird shit that you have to deal with when it comes to, you know, white and Asian. And don't get me started on the white Asian mixed kids. Like, oh my God, are they, oh my goodness. Just that whole treating you like you don't belong somewhere, treating you like you're just you know, like you don't deserve to be like that. You didn't work as hard as them, and it's just like, bitch, I've been working hard before you even, like something that I noticed when I went to this private school is that I had like so many core memories that I had formed back in my crib years. But for a lot of them, they can't even remember their childhoods. Like they have no recollection of their life before like middle school or some shit. But, if you're someone who comes from more humble beginnings, you've had to learn shit really quickly. Like, starting from a young age, you've had to be, a little sharp because, you lose your fucking life, or drama starts real early when you come from humble beginnings, and you learn to navigate life in these toxic environments a lot sooner than most. And so you might find yourself having more memories than other people do because you've had to navigate more demanding environments than they've had to. Um, and that kind of goes into my point about a lot of times people think that struggle builds character, and to certain and it just goes back to my point of how too much struggle, it just doesn't. Everyone has this idea of, oh yeah, going through hard times, that's how you become, greater, stronger, and stuff like that. And it's like, yes, but only up to a certain point. Putting someone through narcissistic abuse, that's not going to make them stronger, that's not going to make them sharper, that's only going to delay their growth. Stress, there's good stress and there's bad stress. There's a good amount of uncomfortable and then there's a bad amount of uncomfortable. A lot of times, it's like that whole topic of survivor's bias. A lot of times, people who make it, like something I'm very aware of is the fact that I am lucky. This is a word people who are havers or people that come from, more economically secure backgrounds hate. Like people, especially white people, they hate the word lucky so fucking much because they almost feel like, no, I work to get this. And it's like, bitch, shut up. No one's saying that you didn't acquire skills and put in work to get where you are. The thing is, um, and I'm honestly not going to go too deeply into this because there's a million and one YouTube channels that do and talk about shit like this. Like, I'm not about to explain inequality. I'm not about to explain, things that, I'm not going to go too deeply into the whole, um, how adverse childhood experiences, and situations set, certain kids up for failure, before they even get out the gate. I'm not about to go into, the fact that inequality is a feature of our current, political, social, and economic system. I'm not about to go into any of that, because, quite frankly, um, one, there's just people that can go into it more deeper, that are more, deeply educated on it, that can do it much better. But I have enough understanding of those things, not only through my own lived experiences, but also through the studies that I've done and read. And it's just, yeah, there's way too much information out here on that. We're saturated with information on that. Um, or maybe not saturated. We could use a bit more talks about that, but I'm not going to talk about that because it's too. It's just I don't want to be bothered with that right now. But where I'm going with this is just the fact that you're going to have to navigate life with a lot more working against you than for you. Um, and the best kind of uncomfortable to be in is neutral uncomfortability, like being neutrally uncomfortable. Um, that's the best kind of discomfort. But if you are going to have negative discomfort, it can't be like some type of traumatizing shit. Like, traumatic shit just doesn't, there's a reason, nations like Africa aren't, not nations like that's a whole fucking continent, but like certain nations, like certain, West African, East African, nations aren't doing as well as, despite, aid and all these other things because, you know, surviving or getting out or making it, that you're always going to be the exception. You're always going to be lucky. You're always like, I always look at my life, and I go like, man, many of my friends, from childhood, like they're doing better. They're doing well for themselves. They're doing great. But there's always, and honestly, I don't see them as doing worse off than me. I don't see them as like, not having done shit with their lives. They're doing great, honestly. They're doing better than me, some of them. But at the end of the day, it's just, there's just a difference between the range of opportunities that they could have taken, and I've seen that I've just had more paths, more options to choose from, and that's where the luck comes in. Like I was lucky enough to have a family member that was doing well for herself and was living out west, and that opened up so many opportunities for me. And then, there's people who, and then I look at my other, people that I know and they're not doing so well, or they just had more limited options, or I can only talk to them about certain things. Like I got a limit, there's a limit to what you can discuss with them about. And it's just like, that's just because they had a cap placed on them. They didn't have, the ability to go to this place and go to that place. They didn't have the ability to do this and do that. They had to they had to work with what was given to them, and there wasn't much given to them. There wasn't much options. There weren't many choices they could make. Um and that's where the real, privilege comes, choice. That's what the real that's just where real comfort comes from, just choices. The more choices you have, the more, power, the more, privilege, the more, of those things you have. When the fewer choices you have, then that's, then the fewer, options, the fewer power, the fewer, yeah, you're just lower on the scale in those areas and things like that. But at the end of the day, At the end of the day, we can wax poetic about, inequality and all these other things, but I'm just always been a girl that's about action, about solutions. I don't like to just talk about problems. I like to, move on to solutions. And despite the fact that I've had all of this shit just going on in my life, despite the fact that I've had so many things, just the deck stacked so hard against me in life, um, there's just always something that gives. There's just always something, some type of way up and way out that's not necessarily a what's what I'm looking for. It's not necessarily a shortcut in terms, but it's just a different alternative route. And I'm all about taking alternative routes because I'm not trying to saddle myself with lots of debt and things like that. Like just one thing that I always wanted to make sure I do is just stay out of enormous amounts of debt. Like I don't ever want to, you know, I just never wanted to be in a situation where I had more debt than I could ever even imagine, more debt than I've ever had, money I've ever made in my life. Like I can't understand the idea of having hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. I've never even made $100,000 a year. What, like what the fuck? Like I'm not about to, you know, um, because I know that shit's a trap, especially for those of us who come from more humble beginnings. I knew I was just sage enough, wise enough as a young girl to know when I got out of high school, like I'm not emotionally, I'm just not in a place where if I went to college, I would be successful. And I knew that. And I was like, I can sit here and try to shove a round peg in a square hole or a square peg in a round hole, or I can, find some alternatives. And that's what I've been doing. And technology is a great place that offers you kind of those alternatives. Um, Unfortunately, as a woman, you're not really pushed as much as guys are to pick up trades and things like that. And I kind of wish I would have been. It's not like I didn't try. I remember there was this one mechanic shop that I went to, and I was just like, look, like, let me work for you, blah, blah, blah. But they didn't hire me, of course. Well, not of course. I mean, I'm pretty sure if I went to some, if I asked around 100 spots, maybe I would have gotten one yes somewhere. But, it's just, as a woman, trades are very male dominated, and when you're constantly being marketed things, you're not really marketed trades. I wish I was a bit more, and like I said, I did try it, but yeah, it's just yeah, there's just different and it's not too late, I'm more than like if I have to do a pivot, then I will, like I'm all about I'm all about when a plan doesn't work out, I don't take it to heart. Like it's okay. And that's another important part about reading up. You got to be able to just take those hits to the chin like a champ. Something doesn't work out, okay, let's move on. The sooner you move on from something that doesn't work out, the sooner you can get to a place where you can accept something that will work out. You just have to keep that. The sooner you get a no, is the sooner you can get a yes. A lot of times people are like, oh, Jill, you're so hasty. You're so hasty. And it's just because I figured that out a long time ago. The sooner I can get a no is the sooner I can get a yes. Like, don't waste my time. Like, just let me know. But with that being said, there are instances where you're just gonna have to play the waiting game, and that's where the waiting game is kind of where character building can happen. So don't knock that shit. But yeah, that's all for now.